Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Haugo. This is Human Biology, chapters 13, 14, and 15 on the cardiovascular system, and this is part D. In part C, we learned about the blood, and we're going to finish talking about the blood. We learned about baby Cole and his hemoglobin abnormality. We learned about the blood constituents, how there's plasma, and then blood cells, and we learned about what makes up plasma, water, and proteins, and all the other good stuff like electrolytes and glucose. We learned about the different types of blood cells, your erythrocytes, which are your red blood cells, which transport the oxygen in hemoglobin. We learned about the leukocytes, which are your white blood cells, which help with your immune system. And then we learned about the thrombocytes, which are your platelets, and they are necessary for blood clotting. On page 294, they show where platelets come from. They are cell fragments. On page 295, there's a nice picture of like a platelet plug when there's been injury to a blood vessel. And then there is on the bottom of page 295 a very nice picture of a blood clot forming. So I would encourage you to check those out. Let's talk about blood types. Blood types are determined by the proteins on the surface of your red blood cells, of erythrocytes. So please write that down. And proteins called antigens are found on the surface of the erythrocytes. And the type of antigen on the surface of your red blood cell determine your blood type, and it's genetic, you're born with it. The four types are A, B, AB, and O. So if you have blood type A, that means you have antigen A on the surface of your erythrocytes. Blood type B has antigen B on the surface of your erythrocytes. Blood type AB has antigen A and antigen B on the surface of your erythrocytes. And blood type O has no antigens on the surface of your erythrocytes. So let's talk a little bit more about that. You develop antibodies to the antigen you are lacking. So for example, type O blood develops antibodies for antigen A and antibodies for antigen B. So if incompatible blood types mix, the antibodies attack the blood cells, and this could be life-threatening. So if a person with type O blood is given like type A blood, then those antibodies that are in the type O blood will attack the new blood that was given, and that's really bad. So there could be a blood clot, and we all know that that would be bad. So a person with type O can donate their blood to all the blood types, O, A, B, and AB, but you can only receive type O blood. So, for example, a person with AB blood, who can they receive blood from and who can they donate blood to? What about a person with A blood? And what about a person with B blood? So let's take a look at a picture. So if you have blood type A, you make antibodies for B, and you'll attack B blood if you get it. If you have B blood type, you make you make antibodies for these A antigens, and will attack A blood if you're given that. A and B would have both, and they have no antibodies, so they can receive any of the blood. And then O makes antibodies for A and for B, and so you can't give type O blood any of these. There's another thing in blood types called the Rh factor. The Rh factor is another protein, it's another antigen found on your red blood cells, your erythrocytes. And if you have Rh positive blood, so if you're like A positive or O positive, then you have the Rh antigen on the surface of your red blood cells. If you are Rh negative, then you do not have any of these on the surface of your erythrocytes. So AB positive would have antigens A, antigens B, and Rh on there, and O negative would have no antigens on the surface of their red blood cells. So why do we want to know? Well, this can cause problems in pregnancy. So please write this down. If an Rh negative mother gives birth to an Rh positive baby, then future pregnancies could be at risk, so the mother is given a shot to prevent the problems. So if an Rh negative mother gives birth, and usually the first baby, no problem, but gives birth to an Rh positive baby, then during childbirth, the bloods can mix, and then she will make antibodies for the Rh antigen, and then a future pregnancy would be at risk because the antibodies in the mom could cross through the placenta and destroy the red blood cells of the baby, and then the baby wouldn't be born. It would be a miscarriage. So for example, I have O positive blood and my mom has O negative blood, and so she had a shot when I was born, so so she could have any more babies if she wanted to, which is good because I have a little sister who is O negative. So I was very glad that they had a shot. So please write down all of the blood types: O positive, O negative, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, and AB negative. Whew, there's a lot. So let's revisit baby Cole, and let's talk about the disease sickle cell anemia. It is an inherited disease that causes abnormal hemoglobin, which gives erythrocytes a sickle or a banana shape. A sickle is a tool. And so these erythrocytes don't flow well, and they can cause blockages in small blood vessels, which is painful. The sickle cell disease is a recessive disorder, so you need a recessive gene from both your mom and your dad to get the disease. So how do we treat it? Well, it could be treated with drugs or with blood transfusions of non-sickled red blood cells. How do you prevent it? You can't. It's a genetic condition. So without genetic counseling, there would be no way to prevent it. So let's take a look at some sickle cells. If you remember way back from biology, we talked about sickle cell and we looked at pictures of sickle cell and we diagnosed somebody with sickle cell. So normally your red blood cells can just really squeeze through those small capillaries. But if you have these sickled cells, which are caused by an abnormal hemoglobin, which doesn't allow the red blood cell to make its nice inner tube shape, then they don't flow as well and they kind of get stuck there. Another disorder is high blood pressure. So high blood pressure is the continuous elevation of blood pressure above the normal range, and this is 130 to 140 or more, or your diastolic is 90 or more. So why is this bad? Well, if you think of having a water hose on high all the time and you're spraying things, it can cause damage. So that high blood pressure can damage the blood vessels and make them weak. So complications include heart attack, stroke, aneurysm, kidney problems, vision problems, diabetes, and dementia. So there's a lot that can go wrong. With all that can go wrong, we would want to prevent this. So let's look at, in class we'll watch a little blood pressure video, but let's look at how we could prevent it. One of the major things for hypertension is don't smoke. Smoking is one of the most unhealthy decisions you can make for yourself. So please don't smoke. Drink in moderation. That means over the legal age. Drinking in moderation is 1 or 2 drinks. Getting your cholesterol and blood pressure checked regularly. And exercising for 30 to 60 minutes daily. Also, your diet matters. So you want to consume a low-fat, low-salt diet. But let's say you do have high blood pressure, maybe because of previous choices, or maybe genetically you just were not lucky and you genetically have high blood pressure. How do we treat it? So all of these lifestyle preventions are the way you treat high blood pressure once you have it, as well as taking medication, statins, for high blood pressure. Our cardiovascular notes are finished. Good job. Well done, everyone. Bye.